People are going to have to travel because you'll be in Singapore on June 12th.
The summit between President Trump and Kim Jong-un will happen.
It's about getting America back on track. And in the last year and a half, he's been crushing it.
We've reached yet one more historic milestone. 3.8% unemployment, another all-time record low. African-American unemployment. They're very honored by that.
Can you beat Donald Trump?
Two guys from Queens. That would be interesting. New Yorkers know how to talk to other New Yorkers. You know?
Although both TBS and Samantha Bee have apologized, she's facing a major backlash.
I just don't know what's happened to these people on the left. These people are just, I think they've just gone crazy. They're making fools of themselves.
I'm thrilled to be here with the brave men and women of the United States Coast Guard. These are exciting times for America. We are being respected. It's about time.
It's not officially summer, but it's pretty darn close.
Pretty darn close.
It's June. It's June 2nd. Is that not officially summer?
No, you gotta actually.
And we're happy because Ed Henry's here.
Oh, it's good to see you guys.
It's great.
Yeah. I feel like the competition's already getting heated just sitting here next to you.
We haven't even talked about it yet.
I was at an airport like last week, and this woman from Michigan comes up to me. She's like, "I like your reporting, but more importantly, beat Pete." I'm like, people love this competition.
Well, he's been rigging it, whatever it's going to be. I don't even know. Maybe he knows. I'm sure he does. He's been practicing like the canoe, and we'll find out later on in the show.
Oh, is there one today?
I don't know.
You're going to have that is the tease. You're going to have to wait for it. But if you were watching the news at all yesterday, so much has happened over the past 12 hours. Most importantly, the summit with North Korea, it is still on, happening in Singapore on June 12th. President Trump meeting with leaders of North Korea. There he is, the number 2 man in North Korea. I think this is the second time a leader from North Korea has been to the White House in history. It was supposed to just be a drop-off of a letter. Ended up being a 2-hour meeting between these two.
And he delivered a very big envelope.
Look at that thing.
Big, beautiful envelope.
A Trumpian-size envelope, I think is fair to say. And as we have come to be accustomed to with this administration, nothing goes to script. You're right. It was supposed to be dropped off, turned off. Turned out it was a 2-hour meeting. You've got some inside information about that a little bit as well. But President Trump had this to say about that meeting as well. Listen.
We'll be meeting on June 12th in Singapore. It went very well. It's really a get-to-know-you kind of a situation. We've gotten to know their people very well, and we will. You people are going to have to travel because you'll be in Singapore on June 12th. And I think it'll be a process. It's not, I never said it goes in one meeting. I think it's going to be a process. But the relationships are building, and that's a very positive thing. It'll be a beginning. I don't say, and I've never said it happens in one meeting. You're talking about years of hostility, years of problems, years of really hatred between so many different nations.
And you see the president managing expectations there, saying this is not one meeting that's going to be all denuclearization. It's going to be the be-all and end-all. But think about how much progress we've made. The idea that the president of the United States is going to sit down with Kim Jong-un. And just a week ago, when the president wrote that other letter that said we're pulling out of the June 12th summit, the Democrats, like Nancy Pelosi, was on Capitol Hill saying Kim Jong-un is celebrating. This is a disaster. We've lost our best chance of peace. They've basically been cheering defeat here. They've been cheering, let's not have this denuclearization summit.
And not just Nancy Pelosi, though. I mean, you talked about setting the right expectations, and I think he's smart to do that because he's playing the long game, and he knows that the media wants, a lot of them want this to fail, right? They don't want the president to succeed. Not everyone in the media, but you do have folks that sort of laugh at this if it doesn't go as planned. And he knows that if they walk away from Singapore and there is not that handshake at the end saying this is the end of the 70-year war, we are denuclearizing that part of the world, then people are going to say this was a failure on the president's part. And he's saying that's not how this works. Diplomacy is a very long game. This is just the first of what we hope will be many, many meetings.
Yeah, no, Ed, you're right. Totally expectation setting here. You can get ahead of yourself. Right. June 12th becomes this holy day on the calendar. No, it's just the beginning. It's just one. But all of this feels like the speed of business. A businessman, not the speed of protocol or the speed of politics or the speed of Washington. It was off, now it's back on, and it's going to happen on the day we said. No need for that date to slide. then everything that comes after that matters. I want to know what's in the envelope, though. I really do. Someone knows, and I guess at some point we'll find out.
I mean, they knew who they were delivering it to.
Message.
That's for sure.
The president said he was going to bring a new approach to countries like North Korea. He's delivering on that. We'll see what actually happens at the summit. But he also said in the campaign again and again that he was going to get tough on trade. And specifically, he went forward this past week on those tariffs aimed at Mexico, the EU, as well as Canada in terms of steel and aluminum. And there's been a lot of anger among some allies with the president saying, look, I want fairer trade for America. I'm standing up for my country. And you have Justin Trudeau in Canada, who understandably is standing up for his country and saying he's angry about this. But it seems like he's sort of taking it to a new level.
Yeah. Oh, Justin from Canada. So he didn't just take issue with our trade policies, which the president has been very clear about why he's doing it. He went at the troops. Listen to Justin from Canada.
Our soldiers who had fought and died together on the beaches of World War II, and the mountains of Afghanistan, and have stood shoulder to shoulder in some of the most difficult places in the world, that are always there for each other, somehow this is insulting to them. The idea that we are somehow a national security threat to the United States is quite frankly insulting and unacceptable.
Look, this is something the president's campaigned on from the very early days. You remember of his campaign. He has not been a fan of NAFTA for a very long time. So you shouldn't be totally surprised when he's saying, I'm following up with the things I promised I would do on the campaign trail, because this is what I promised I would do when I got into office.
And you can have policy differences without turning into, oh, my gosh, on the beaches of Normandy, this has changed everything. Give me a break.
And of course, Macron's also upset. He said that this is illegal. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out, because the president, he is throwing everything at the wall here, saying, you know what, no, we have gotten the short end of the stick here continuously. There needs to be a change. But as you said, Ed, a lot of people aren't happy about this.
And he shouldn't be surprised. Listen, I don't say this often, but I've literally stood shoulder to shoulder with Canadian troops in Afghanistan. They're great folks. They do a lot of wonderful things. They also have a lot of caveats that don't allow them to actually do combat in certain situations. Not to dismiss Canadian troops. They do a lot of great stuff in a lot of great places. But this is not about, it's not about insulting his troops. His troops aren't reading a trade deal as an insult to them. Saying, listen, Trump thinks it's a bad deal. He's a businessman. He wants different terms.
And
let's talk about it. It's a negotiation. Why are you going to talk about World War II?
Because that could pull up the heartstrings, then it gets more emotional.
I think you're right.
Yeah. But let us know what you think about that. Friends@foxnews.com. So this is another story that has been popping up over the past few months, but it really started heating up more towards the end of this week. Joy-Ann Reid, who works for another network, she had a blog post decades ago.
Many blog posts.
Many. And they keep coming to the surface, and a recent one has John McCain, Senator John McCain, as the head of the Virginia Tech shooter. So she has said in the past that someone has hacked her account. They hacked it. They put on things that I would never do. They had the FBI investigate this thing, and since it seemed to have crumbled. I don't know where that went. So they're spending
taxpayer money. In order to bail her out, initially she was saying that she was attacking homosexuals in some of her blog posts, all kinds of ridiculous
9/11 truther.
Yeah.
I mean, there was 9/11 truther stuff.
So to defend herself, at first she said, I was hacked. Maybe the Russian hackers did it. Maybe it was Putin. And so they called in the FBI. NBC News backed her up on that, having the FBI investigate this. So your taxpayer money has been spent. We don't know how much, but has been spent investigating whether she was hacked. Now she's saying, oh, okay, actually I did.
Yeah, we've been talking about fake news. Now she's coming out and saying, no, I apologize, which apologies are fine. Good.
Right.
Here's what she said. She said, there are things I deeply regret and am embarrassed by, things I would have said differently, and issues where my position has changed. Today, I'm sincerely apologizing again. To your point, Ed, and Tucker said this last night so well in his program, what is the penalty for perpetuating a hoax?
Right.
It's not okay
with the FBI,
to yell fire when there isn't a fire. Or I was hacked when you knew you weren't hacked. Listen, if you have different positions and you said terrible things in the past, own it and be who you are today. If you were fooled by a hoax that 9/11 was an inside job, if you did terrible things about John McCain, that was you in the past. Own that, defend that, be fair about that.
Don't say
lie
that
to
someone
us and say
hacked our account.
It's like,
so I think that is the conversation this country is having right now, is what is crossing that line? At what point do you ultimately fire someone, right? Because race is one thing, and I think everyone has agreed across the board that no one should stand for that. But this is really bad stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone should stand by that either. So
MSNBC is, and here's what they say. Some of the things written by Joy on her old blog, are obviously hateful and hurtful. Joy has apologized publicly and privately and said she has grown. And and evolved in the many years since, and we know this to be true. People do grow, people
and
do
maybe
evolve.
that is true.
But
well, if you're a liberal,
it's
you get
old blog, so that it's okay now.
If you're a liberal, you get to apologize.
Yeah.
If you're a conservative, you get fired. And you can dig into. Listen, I shouldn't do this, but you could read what I wrote in college. I was the publisher. No, I was the publisher of the Princeton Tory.
I love when you start.
Go for it. Go for it. I said nothing terrible. I just had opinions as a college kid, and I ran a publication. Take that, put it on the internet, put it on the screen, talk about what a terrible person I am. Everyone changes. Then I went to war. You do things. You have different perspectives in life. You learn things. So I can actually have empathy and sympathy for Joy Reid. I can't believe I'd ever say that. But it's true. I care about her positions now. If she's truly sincere about the apology, I don't want to live in a world where the mob descends and said everyone gets fired for everything they say. And so you shouldn't be a 9/11 truther. And represent yourself falsely.
Or put John McCain's head on the Virginia Tech shooter. I mean, that is horrific.
It's very
true. So let us know your thoughts, friends at foxnews.com. I wish you saw Ed in my face when you said I shouldn't be saying this right now. Before you finished that thought,
we will be We'll be going through that old blog. Stand by throughout the morning.
Cannot wait for that.
That
All
old
right.
Pete blog.
Well, a lot going on this morning. I want to bring you some other headlines we're following close. So we begin on a serious note with a Fox News alert. 2 tourists are found stabbed to death inside of a Las Vegas hotel room. It's now being ruled a double homicide. Police say the couple were in Vegas as part of a Vietnamese tourist group. When they didn't show up for a Grand Canyon tour, Circus Hotel and Casino did a welfare check of their room. No word on any suspects at this time. We'll keep an eye on that one. Also, there's 2 suspects charged with murdering a Tennessee deputy will face the death penalty. Stephen Wiggins and Erica Castro Miles are charged in the killing of Deputy Sergeant Daniel Baker. After a nearly 48-hour manhunt, Wiggins was captured by a Tennessee Highway Patrol trooper. Authorities using Baker's handcuffs to arrest Wiggins. The 10-year veteran of the force was found shot dead in his patrol car after responding to a 911 call about a suspicious vehicle. Also, this Defense Secretary James Mattis slamming China for militarizing artificial islands in the South China Sea. Listen to this.
Despite China's claims to the contrary, the placement of these weapon systems is tied directly to military use for the purposes of intimidation and coercion. It calls into question China's broader goals.
That was the secretary in Singapore. Mattis warning of much larger consequences if the country ignores the international community. The secretary making those remarks overnight at an international security forum in Singapore. And President Trump raising America's first line of defense as the Coast Guard welcomes a new commander.
America is safe because our Coast Guard is strong. These are exciting times for America. We are being respected again. We're being respected abroad.
Admiral Carl Schultz relieving Admiral Paul Zumkopf as the 26th commanded after serving since 2014. Schultz was an operational commander for all U.S. Coast Guard missions from the Rocky Mountains to the Arabian Gulf. Those are your headlines.
All right. Thanks, Abby. Well, the Trump economy surges, adding 223,000 jobs in May. But the media melting down over a tweet. Big surprise.
Why would the president tell all of America to look at the jobs numbers if the jobs numbers were not good?
Needs insider trading when you can get the cheat sheet directly from the president.
There you go. They won't focus on the good news, but Stu Varney, he will. He's up early with us on a Saturday.
Super early.
He's here next.
How do you get him out of bed? And can you do Roseanne without Roseanne? ABC might actually try an update on the story that just won't go away.
Welcome back. Well, an hour before the May jobs report came out yesterday, the president tweeted he was excited to see the numbers. The report was excellent, an 18-year low in the unemployment rate, but the media made it all about that tweet. Listen.
A lot of people scratching their heads about why the president decided to tweet about it beforehand.
Why would the president tell all of America to look at the jobs numbers if the jobs numbers were not good?
He was so eager to trumpet the news, he broke years of presidential protocol.
Who needs insider trading when you can get the cheat sheet directly from the president? It's hardly the first time the president has broken the rules when it comes to sharing sensitive, sometimes even classified information.
So he broke the rules. Here to react to all of this, the host of Varney & Co. on Fox Business, Stuart Varney.
Yes.
That wasn't the big story yesterday, though. The big story was the numbers, the jobs that came out. That is what the American people care about.
The media wants you to be distracted from the very good news about the economy. We got that great news at 8:30 yesterday. No matter what the president hinted beforehand, it was great news. And the media just wanted to distract and divert attention away from the news on jobs.
But it was
And here
insider
it is.
trading, Stuart.
Oh, stop it. Come on, son. Get
But
out
there
of here.
is a protocol, and you're not supposed to break that. We should acknowledge that.
Yes,
Now,
but did he break it? He merely hinted that
hinted
it might be okay.
Right.
He got the news beforehand.
Obviously,
Okay, and he
yeah.
The White House
tweeted
always
about
gets it the night
looking
before.
forward to the good news.
So then it becomes
And
all about the
That's not the
process.
story.
Yes.
That is not the story. Look at this. The story is 3.8% unemployment, lowest in a generation. You've never seen that in this generation. 3.8%, 5.9%. That's the unemployment rate for black folks. That is an all-time low. It's never been down at that level before. Same story for Hispanics. 223,000 new jobs created. You're on the road to prosperity.
No,
Isn't
not
that
according to
the
Nancy
story?
Pelosi. No, Nancy Pelosi said, look at this.
Tell me.
May's jobs report shows that strong employment numbers mean little to the families hit with soaring new costs under the Republicans' watch. Remember, first she was talking about crumbs with the tax cut. I
remember.
Now she's saying these job numbers don't help anybody.
Is that insulting?
Well, I don't know about insulting, but it's a message of desperation, isn't it? The Democrats do not have a growth plan. They don't have one. So they have to criticize the president's growth plan because it is working. And it is working. You know, the president came to office saying, I'm going to make America great again. And the keystone to that whole operation was deregulate and lower taxes. He did both. And now we're seeing the fruits of that.
What is she referring to there, though, in that comment when
Well,
she says it is going up for some families?
You could make the argument that gasoline prices are up a little. That is true. You can make the argument that mortgage rates are up a little. That is accurate. She could make the argument that healthcare costs are rising, but that's not because of President Trump. That is because of Obamacare lingers on in our economy.
So she's looking for the lemons in the lemonade, which of course she would do being in the minority. But when they do have a growth plan, it's a government growth plan. I mean, her view is we solve these problems by growing government programs for people.
Stop it, Peter.
It's a growth plan.
Stop it.
It's a growth plan.
Yeah, that growth plan is tax and spend. Of
course.
It does not produce growth. It produces stable, no, I'm not going to say stable economy, certainly not. It produces virtually no growth for a long period of time. The best we got in the 8 years of tax and spend Obama years was 2%. That's all we got. We've now had 15 months of the Trump economy, and we've got 3% growth. And I think we've got a very good shot at going to 4% growth by the end of this year.
Yeah, you know, I was looking at numbers last night just to compare where we are. You forget back in October 2009, 10% unemployment. How far we've come. You know?
Sure. We've come a very, very long way, especially in the last 15, 16 months of the Trump presidency. We are on the road to prosperity. The Democrats cannot admit that going into the November elections.
All right. Stuart Varney, appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Coming up, you're not going to believe this story. An Uber driver in custody for murder after shooting one of his passengers. What went wrong ahead?
Plus, the left taking aim at the women of the White House. So why doesn't anyone seem to care? We're going to debate that next.
Again, some quick headlines. A raging wildfire is forcing evacuations and threatening hundreds of homes. A blaze charring more than 16,000 acres in northern New Mexico. The Ute Park fire destroying at least 12 buildings already, putting another 300 structures in danger. And President Trump's long-promised border wall is, yes, one step closer to completion.
Build that wall. Build that wall. Build that wall.
Do not worry. We are going to build the wall, okay?
He called it a big, beautiful wall, and construction of a new barrier wall along the San Diego-Mexico border is, yes, underway. The project expected to replace 14 miles of the wall, topping it off with an anti-climbing plate. Abby?
All right, thank you, Ed. White House women took a verbal beating this week from those on the left, from the celebrity comedians. Take a look at this.
You know, Ivanka, that's a beautiful photo of you and your child, but let me just say, one mother to another, do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
Well, if anyone's an expert on hypocrites, it's Sarah Huckabee Sanders. That was not a looks-based joke. That was about her ugly personality.
Ooh, it has been an ugly week. Well, to multiple media outlets continually questioning and speculating First Lady Melania Trump's whereabouts after she underwent surgery, why doesn't anyone seem to really care? Here to debate, senior advisor for the Trump 2020 campaign, Katrina Pearson, and liberal political commentator and contributor for The Hill, Wendy Osefo. Good morning, ladies. Thank you for waking up so early with us.
Good morning.
All right, Katrina, where is the outrage? I mean, it has been, as I said, a very ugly week across the board. Just a lot of hate speech, but particularly with women in the White House. Why doesn't there seem to be more of an uproar about this?
Well, you know, people do care, Abby. The question is, why don't the feminists care? Why doesn't the media care? And the reason is because there's this perversion of feminism today that essentially discriminates against women who don't subscribe to their political ideology. And you can't really do anything about it because the media is largely owned and operated by left-leaning individuals who have created this atmosphere or echo chamber that perpetuates this faux feminist narrative. So it makes it very difficult, even for those who want to get out there and support these women and the attacks against them, to be really effective.
Wendy, what do you think about that? That you have an easier time forgiving someone or just letting it slide by if you agree with the joke or you dislike the person they're making fun of in some way?
Well, I don't think it's something about feminism and women not speaking up. I think whether you sit on the right side or the left side of the aisle, whenever an individual is verbally attacked, you should speak up. So I don't think we should politicize this because right is right and wrong is wrong. However, what I do want us to make sure that we keep at the forefront of this conversation is the White House has not always been very friendly to people outside of the White House either. So at the end of the day, when you're looking at this and you look at this from a top-down model, if we want, citizens to make sure that they speak kindly about individuals in the White House, I will say to the White House, make sure you speak kindly about individuals outside
Melania
of the White
has.
House.
I mean, I don't think anyone can criticize Melania for that. And a lot of people have been speculating, making comments about where she's been. She had to tweet out about it because there was so much talk about this. She said, I see the media is working overtime speculating where I am, what I'm doing. Rest assured, I'm here at the White House with my family, feeling great and working hard on behalf of children and the American people. Katrina, it got to the point where she actually had to publicly speak out.
Well, I mean, and that's because there is a political slant to all of this. We have to be honest if we're going to talk about the double standard when it comes to criticizing women in such vulgar and profane ways, which is what we are seeing today. And this notion that the White House has anything to do with that political discourse, I hate to break it to you, but as a black woman and a Republican, I can promise you these types of attacks, whether it's racist, sexist, or misogynist, have come along long before 2016. All we have to do is look at Sarah Palin and what happened to her and her family, including the horrible names that her special needs child was called, and to the vulgar sexual references to her 14-year-old daughter. This is not something that's brand new, but it is solely relegated to conservatives.
Yeah.
That's
what do you
not
think?
true,
Wendy, respond.
Yeah, that's not true, Katrina. And as a black woman myself, I can say to you, we shouldn't use that as necessarily a straw man to say that these attacks are warranted or unwarranted, because you're the same black woman that says slavery is good history. I remember we had that conversation. So let us keep,
all of our
clear
history.
here.
Absolutely.
Here we go with the slavery is good history.
Well,
the reason why,
that's not where we are.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Katrina, let Wendy finish.
Katrina, let me finish.
You want to personally attack Wendy.
I will personally attack you because you said slavery is good history.
If I can't hear either one of you, we can't have this conversation.
You said slavery is good history, so yes, I will personally attack you.
All of our history is good history, and you're the one that brought up slavery.
Well,
what I
this is
would
now
say
evolved
is
to a whole other debate.
Abby, just last week, Candace Owens, someone who doesn't groupthink like the left, she was in a headline at The Root called a coon. Now tell me, Wendy, when was the last time someone in the media called you that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Every time I get on Fox News, someone calls me a coon. Every time I get on Fox News, someone calls me a monkey. So what are you talking about?
Ladies, we will have Candace Owens on later in the show and get her thoughts.
Conservative women.
Ladies, we're going to have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for being on with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Abby.
It's early for a fiery debate like this. Thank you so much. All right, former CIA Director John Brennan furthering his attacks on President Trump.
I think Mr. Trump has demonstrated a paranoia and insecurity, as well as a real concern about the investigation that is underway.
And he says he's not going to stop until integrity returns to the White House. Dan Bongino is here. He's going to react. That's next. And can you do Roseanne without Roseanne? ABC, they are trying to, apparently. An update on that straight ahead.
Here she comes, walking, talking true love, saying I've been looking for you, love. Surprise, your new love has arrived.
$17 million is a really huge amount, but the greater cost to the public is that we paid all this money and we don't find out the truth, that we're not going to get what we paid for. And so I think the test is going to be, both in the FBI investigation and the Mueller investigation, is will we be able to see the facts? Because the prohibitive cost in all of this would be lingering doubts.
That was Jonathan Turley last night on Tucker's show. Here to react, we're going to bring in Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, former NYPD officer, and host of the Dan Bongino Show, also an NRA TV contributor. Dan, thanks for being here. So $17 million, the DOJ has now revealed their spending report. Are we getting a good return on our investment for that $17 million of taxpayer money?
Pete, what is this, the comedy hour?
It might be.
Are you trying to change careers on me? There's $17 million. Well, are we getting our money's worth? We are getting worked with a capital W. When I grew up in New York City in the streets of Queens there, that was the thing. You're getting worked. You are getting screwed so badly, the American people, by this sham investigation. I've never seen anything like it. Let me walk you through just a second for a couple of things around this, right? The case was founded on a total sham. We now know that there is Russian collusion with the Clintons and the Democrats, but Bob Mueller's investigating Donald Trump for it, number one. Pete, number two, the Mueller probe team is stacked with anti-Trumpers, two of whom are lawyers. This is a fact, by the way. I encourage anyone to look this up, who actually represented people beforehand in the Clinton sphere. They represented Clintonians involved in the case. This is a total scam. Everybody's getting worked.
Where's the money going? Is it paying Sal? I mean,
where is it going and where does it end?
Maybe for anti-Trump bonuses. Maybe they come in and throw darts at a Trump dartboard every day and get $100 every time they hit a bullseye. I mean, I have no idea, but that's a perfectly fair question for you to ask. What are we paying for? We're paying for a 1001 charge on George Papadopoulos for fibbing to the FBI? I mean, this is what we paid $17 million for and shut the country down for what, almost 2 years now? Well, Dan, I mean, listen, obviously I'm passionate about it, but this is really upsetting. I was a federal agent, and this is a serious thing to have the power to take away someone's freedom. And where the American taxpayer, me included, is paying for a total sham.
Well, Dan, I'm glad you mentioned George Papadopoulos. We've been told sort of the official version of events is that this whole investigation started when he was having drinks in London and some drunken conversation about potential Russian collusion, when in fact John Brennan and others are now under the microscope as to whether they were starting this much sooner. And John Brennan, as you know, wrote this op-ed yesterday in the Washington Post saying, "I will speak out until integrity returns to the White House." Here's what he said on Morning Joe, and then I'll get you to react.
I think Mr. Trump has demonstrated a paranoia and insecurity, as well as a real concern about the investigation that is underway. Certainly his tweets do not seem like they're coming from a person of innocence and confidence. Mr. Trump is going to promote his narrative. He certainly is going to continue to try to discredit the FBI and the CIA and others. But I think, make no mistake about it, the American justice system, I think, is going to prevail in this endeavor to get to the bottom of who might have been collaborating and working with foreign actors to try to undermine the integrity of the election.
Dan, a lecture on justice from John Brennan.
John Brennan, no single figure in American history has done more to discredit the intelligence community than this liar. He's not only is he a liar, he's a liar about being a liar. He's already busted lying. He said he didn't know about the dossier, yet he briefed people up on the Hill about elements of the dossier that then appeared in a letter to the FBI. He's lying. He's just making this up. And one more thing, by the way. He keeps avoiding this topic about foreign intelligence and his relationship with them. He's the one who met with British intelligence people. This is open reporting. It's already out there at what they call director-level meetings, and exchanged information about Trump before this case was even started by the FBI. Hey, John, why don't you tell us about that? He keeps avoiding that topic and switching it to Trump.
All right. Dan Bongino, appreciate you coming in.
Dan, appreciate it.
Always fired up. Good to see you, Dan. Have a good weekend.
Good to see you, too.
All right. Bring you some other headlines now coming into our newsroom. A highly anticipated report on the FBI's handling of the Clinton email investigation is hit with a new delay. The Senate Judiciary Committee pushing its hearing with Inspector General hearing Michael Horowitz to June 11th as we await for the release of his report. Many expected to report the report to already be released. Byron York, columnist with the Washington Examiner, explains the holdup.
It is clearly being held up by redactions, by privacy concerns, and by, frankly, I think by feet being dragged at various places in the bureaucracy.
Well, now we're being told Horowitz's report may be released next week. Also, there's an Uber driver accused of shooting and killing a passenger now under arrest. Officials holding the driver Michael Hancock on suspicion of first-degree murder. A witness telling police that the driver said the victim tried to attack him before he killed the 45-year-old rider. The suspect was handcuffed at the scene in Denver. Uber says, quote, "Our thoughts are with the families of those involved, and we will continue working closely with police." Yikes. Former Attorney General Eric Holder hinting at a 2020 showdown with President Trump. Listen.
First and foremost, can I win? I wouldn't be involved or do something simply to make a statement.
Can you beat Donald Trump?
2 guys from Queens. That'd be interesting.
The former Obama administration official saying that he's still considering a run for the White House. Holder talking to reporters at the Politics and Eggs event in New Hampshire, which is a must-stop for potential presidential candidates. ABC might be looking into a second reboot of Roseanne with a focus on Sarah Gilbert.
Dad, will you tell her how stupid she's being?
That's never worked out for me.
According to TMZ, the network is considering rebranding that show, focusing on Gilbert's character, Darlene. Gilbert has reportedly been contacting cast members to see if they'd be on board in case the network moves forward. ABC, of course, canceled the sitcom after Roseanne Barr posted a racist tweet targeting former Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett. Can this show still go on without
What will
Roseanne?
they call it?
That is the question.
They won't call it Roseanne anymore.
They probably can't.
Gilbert?
Rick, what should they call it?
What happened to Roseanne?
What happened?
What happened?
Well done, Rick. You brought your A game today.
Where's Mom's?
Where's Mom?
All right, guys. The eastern part of the country is hot and it's really humid. So we've been wondering where summer is. It's certainly here. It's been here across the plains, especially 80 already in Dallas. It's very humid across parts of the East Coast as well. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. Because it's humid and it's hot, we're going to see a lot of pop-up thunderstorms throughout the day today. Some of these could be a little bit severe, but the bigger one we're worrying about is right here across the central part of the country. Severe weather firing here. Very strong winds associated with this line of storms that's coming through. Obviously, so much of the ground is saturated across parts of the east, so any of those little thunderstorms that you see pop up could be causing some flooding as well. Here's your high temperatures for the day. 102 in Dallas, so the heat is certainly on. A little bit of a break across parts of the Northeast and the Great Lakes. Look at that tomorrow, 53 in Marquette. But overall, the heat and humidity is here for summertime, guys.
Yeah, you can feel it. Thank you, Rick.
You bet.
All right, it's not just fights over free speech. Roseanne and Samantha Bee. The culture wars raging across the country. Next, we'll look at some of the stories you might have missed.
Plus, we've got Sean Spicer, Candace Owens, and Reince Priebus all here live. Coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Good morning. We are back with some quick headlines for you. Take a close look at this Republican's picture on Google. Search results showing North Carolina Senator Trudy Wade's photo with the word bigot smeared across it. Google says it's still unclear how the edited headshot appeared under the search results, saying it has now removed that image. And the tech giant is now bowing to internal pressure to cut ties with the Pentagon. Google deciding against renewing a Defense Department contract that upset employees. Workers feared the government program, which used artificial intelligence to identify and track drone strikes, could be used for lethal purposes. Pete, take it away.
Thanks, Abby. Well, the culture wars continue across the globe as they do every week, and there are some crucial stories that you may have missed this week. Here to fill us in and give us her take is the conservative millennial and CRTV host, Allie Beth Stuckey. Allie, thank you very much for being here this morning. So news moves so fast. There's a lot of stuff that we miss. We're going to go through three stories here. The first is out of Australia. I want to read this headline for you. It is no boys allowed, no girls either. Australia is actually auditing kids' books to make sure they aren't too gender specific. Tell us about this.
not just kids' books, but also toys. They are trying to obliterate any kind of gender distinction in order to advance the ball down the gender equity court. Of course, this is just social engineering. We also saw this in Sweden. Sweden has gender-neutral preschools in which boys are taught to be more like girls and girls are taught to be more like boys. And what they found over a decade of studying is that boys and girls are no less likely to fall along traditional gender stereotypes. That's because gender and sex are scientifically intertwined. So the more we advance this anti-science progressive agenda, the more confused our kids will be and the more unstable they'll be as adults.
Yeah, they get confused and it doesn't work. It includes avoiding hyper-feminized toys such as Barbies.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that, no Barbies or trucks on either side. All right. Where have we gone? All right, the second story here. Louisiana passed some of the most strict abortion laws in the country. I believe they're setting the limit at 15 weeks. Tell us about this.
Well, what's interesting about this is that this was a Democratic governor that actually signed this bill, which just goes to show that the pro-life movement really shouldn't be a right or left issue. It is a human rights issue. Unborn rights are human rights. At 15 weeks, an unborn child is already starting to look like his or her mother. They might already start to feel pain at this point. So this is a common sense, decent human rights law, and I wish the rest of the country would follow suit.
Well, Allie, and it's great to see states taking the prerogative. I mean, if you live there and you want to vote for that and you vote for people who support that, good for you.
Exactly.
Thanks you for highlighting that story. Third story here. Okay, so California keeps acting like a country. It has now banned state-funded travel to Oklahoma because it considers the policies there discriminatory toward LGBT folks. What do you make of that?
Let's look at these discriminatory policies. So Oklahoma simply said that private adoption agencies can operate out of their religious convictions by saying, hey, same-sex couples might not be able to adopt. You don't have to agree with that particular adoption agency to agree with their right to do so. Like you said, California is operating like a country. They operate in a world that doesn't honor religious freedom or the First Amendment or the Constitution for that matter. This is the same state that said, hey, pro-life adoption agencies or pro-life health centers, you have to advertise for abortion. And they also said that, hey, we're going to ban services that promote any kind of sexual orientation reform. So this is not necessarily a state that honors free speech or freedom of religion, so I'm not really surprised to see them operating in this
not
way.
even a state that enforces its own laws. So it passes laws about where you can't go and then doesn't enforce their own immigration laws. A little confusing to me. Allie Beth Stuckey, thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it for catching us up.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, he was held in contempt of Congress, but former AG Eric Holder now criticizing President Trump's pardons. Listen.
The president is trying to send a message to some people who potentially might be involved in the Russia investigation.
It's always about signaling. Former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer here to react next hour. Don't miss that. And it's National Camping Month. I camped last summer. I'm camping this summer for sure. So we're camping out on the plaza. We're taking a look at the perfect RVs for families. There's Rick. It looks like he's eating something. I'm jealous. Looks like a snappy RV. We'll bring you there.
We'll build a fire soon as we get there. There ain't supposed to be a cloud.
Can't see that. All right. Well, you know, it's National Camping Month in June, and to celebrate, Go RVing has brought the camping to us right here on the plaza.
Yeah, here to tell us more, Alan Taylor, auto expert and host of Drive Radio show, and a lifelong RVer himself. Of course, why would you not be?
Well, you know what? This world, it's just, you know, it's coming in on us, right? There's like, we all have so many things that are distracting us. Yeah. We forget about life itself. So it's a good time to get out and go camping. You can take shorter trips. 25 million people are going to be out camping this summer, RVing, and we have a brand new Winnebago Intent. And, you know, the beautiful thing about this is I'm a brand new grandfather. I'm a baby boomer.
Oh, congratulations.
So, yeah, right? Little itty bitty baby. I want to take my family with me, right?
To spend that quality time because you can't go anywhere.
Right?
You can't leave the RV. So we're going to have RVs all morning long, but this one.
It's like taking your house to the woods.
Yeah.
Well, and it is a second home. You can actually write off the interest on it. You can finance them 15 to 20 years. So there's a lot of incentives. And again, you can go camping more often. You can get away more often. You can have more fun.
So
and
what is this?
start
This is a
living
large
life.
one. So what's in there?
This is a big one. It sleeps like 8 or 9 people.
Wow. You
So
wanna
can
take
take
us
a
in?
lot of friends. Yeah, come on in.
While
Let's
you go
check
inside,
it.
I'm going to watch us
All
on
right,
TV
very
over
good.
here. I'm going to watch Rick inside.
Hey, Rick.
Alan, how are you?
Hey, man. Good
Wait,
to see you.
You said you can write off the interest.
You can write off
on the loan on this thing.
Yeah, because it's a second home, right?
That's pretty amazing. These things are huge. How many people does this sleep?
Well, if you depends on if you have adults or kids. You can sleep up to 9 people in it. There's seat belts everywhere. It's got, I mean, everything makes into a bed. So it's a really fun machine.
So you get 9 people sleeping in here, but there's still only one bathroom.
There is still only one bathroom. You have to take turns, but there is the woods. There's always a tree for the boys.
All right. So if you go to GoRVing.com, there's tons of information on this.
Yeah.
What about how do you find out where to camp?
Well, you know what? There's like 16,000 campgrounds around. So again, GoRVing.com is a great resource. It's the entire industry all under one website. The beautiful thing about this is too, by the way, is that you can take that one night overnight and just reboot yourself. So it's really fun.
That's the beauty of being outdoors. That's what nature does for you. All right, much more with GoRVing throughout the show today, and more of these RVs. Amazing stuff. Right now, we'll send it back outside. Right outside.
All right, we've got a
Rick, we've been watching you out here on the
cool this is. We're
TV,
watching
checking
you
out
here.
the grill outside. Pretty darn cool.
Yeah, big show.
Thank you so much, Alan. We'll have you back later on the show. Coming up, that we've got Sean Spicer, Candace Owens, Ryan Priebus, and of course, Geraldo Rivera joins us on the couch. So much more to come on the Saturday
Love
Morning
it.
Fox and Friends. Back after this.
We annoyed, and the ones we kissed goodnight. Two trucks that drove us home, the secrets we never told, and all the talks on old dirt roads that somehow changed our lives. Here's to the nights we don't remember, and the friends